Good evening, and welcome to Nights on Broadway, the first of a series of 3 interviews with the stars of the shows at the Lobero Theater with this year's Nights on Broadway series. We're coming to you tonight through the sponsorship of the Lobero Theater Foundation and Cox Cable TV, and we thank Cox Cable for helping us out with this production. I'm very excited tonight to introduce 3 of the stars from Blithe Spirit, which is now playing at the Lobero Theater. Blithe Spirit is by Noel Coward, and it opened last night, and it's a very delightful comedy. And with me this evening are 3 of the stars from the show. Peter Mark Richmond. Peter Mark, you'll recognize from hundreds of television shows, films. He has a recurring role on Dynasty, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of your upcoming projects. Kathleen Freeman, who you'll recognize again from many, many films, television shows. Probably a lot of people will remember you from Topper. I know I do. And just recently finished a national tour of Annie, playing Miss Hannigan, a fun role. And we'll talk some more about some of the things you're doing in the Los Angeles area with theater. And Miss Claudette Nevins, good to have you with us. You'll recognize Claudette from, probably most of you from Love of Life, the daytime drama, and recently debuted on Broadway with George C. Scott in The Wall.
Well, not recently, quite a while ago.
Quite a while ago,
yes.
Okay. Sorry.
It's okay.
Well, it's good to have all of you here, and I'm looking forward to spending the next half hour with you, getting to know you a little bit better and finding out a little bit more about...
That's if you behave yourself. Right?
I'm glad he's setting the ground rules. Good to be with you.
Thank you. Why don't you tell me, even though I've seen the show, tell our viewers a little bit about the roles you play in Blithe Spirit, a little bit about the show, give us some insight as to what we can see if we come and see Blithe Spirit at the Lobero.
I'm always thinking that the best thing to do is only titivate people and
That's
never
great.
tell them exactly what it is they're going to see. I think it spoils it for you, you know?
Yes,
Don't you?
I agree.
We don't want to give anything away.
Don't want to give anything away.
No,
It's
not really.
Well, of course, we could do it and get 3 very different points of view. I was thinking about this. I thought if Peter Mark described what the play was about, it would be a play about a man who.
Yes, right.
If Kathleen described the play,
It's about a woman who.
Yes, I can describe this play. I think it's about wearing tuxedo and learning lines.
and holding martini glasses without shaking them.
Yeah.
Peter Mark, you joined the cast. This is this production of Blithe Spirit is your first time with the cast, so this is a little bit more new to you than the rest of the cast that's coming up from La Mirada.
Well,
Yes.
they had...
We're old-timers. We've been in with it.
They had a lot of rehearsal, more than I did.
That's what I heard.
But we won't talk about that.
Okay. Well,
That's
you never know
boring.
the difference. You did a great job last night. So basically, Blithe Spirit is a comedy. It's about a gentleman that loses a wife and has one come back and visit him.
Well, it's about a man who thinks he has an hallucination. And he has a semi-happy married life.
I beg your pardon.
There we go. Yeah, there we
What
are.
do you mean by that?
Now they sound like they're doing the play.
Well, I mean that he's sort of,
semi-happy.
yes, he's happy.
I'm going to talk to you later, Peter.
Yes, I think that's
do
not
argue about
accurate. Well, you know,
Well,
Blithe
only
Spirit-
because you insist on doing the things you do.
See,
We
right?
were perfectly happily married before all of this
All
came
of this
along.
started.
Right.
Yes.
Actually, Blithe Spirit is a classic genre piece, really. Coward is very much coming back into play and in focus nationally,
Oh, yes.
not only in the United States, but in England too. It's rather nice to see the resurgence of an author of such capabilities language-wise and so on. I mean, we have spent, I think, a long, long time now not experiencing language. Certainly that has been the case in the United States, I think also in England. And it's very exciting to come to the theater and have a chance to hear people speak.
Really speak and talk. I noticed that last night. It was
Yes.
wonderful just to listen to the lines and think about, I mean, you don't hear lines like that in
No,
contemporary shows.
we've a lot of grunting and groaning.
Right.
And it's also an obligation because Noel Coward writes in the English idiom. And
Right.
for American actors, it's a task because the lines are structured in a certain way, and you can get fouled up because we don't speak that way. It isn't
Right.
natural to
It's
our
not
speech.
right.
So it's really a problem, but it's a wonderful problem, and I find it personally a joy to use the English expression.
Yes, it is quite a challenge. I understand Noel Coward in particular feels about his own plays, that really there's nothing very difficult about doing them as long as the actors just say the words the way he wrote them, one after the other. What could the problem possibly be? The play will work by itself.
Oh, this is
Everything
true.
is, and it is a magnificently well-structured play, in addition to which, I mean, he really does write beautifully timed comic lines. If you simply say them, they will almost always work for you. It's very hard to get in there. You have to go to a lot of trouble to get in the way of what he's done.
What's interesting, I think, too, is that all of us, or a number of us in the company, are suddenly attached to reading his diaries. The book has just come out. And so it's great fun. What she has just said, of course, is written over and over with different productions that he had in England, and of Blithe Spirit, too, of saying, if the actors would please not get in the way, just say the words that I wrote and go where they're supposed to go, and it will all work very well. But, and that's fun. But this particular cast, I think the Lobero Theater, which is a heavenly place to play, is such a wonderful area and has long been known to, I guess, everybody in California. You know, the theater, the ambiance there is wonderful. And it's nice, I think, for this theater to have, I shouldn't toot our horn, but I can do it because I won't include myself.
Go ahead and toot.
But I think,
What do you think you're here for?
Yes. No, I think it's awfully good for any area to have the numbers of well-done actors. Can you say that?
Well done,
sounds like
as opposed to
steak,
medium
doesn't it?
rare. Yeah.
But, you know, we're a group who do love what we're doing, and we love to be with each other. There's an enormous amount of respect going on. You don't always get that kind of combination in the theater. Barbara Rush is delightful in the piece and a lovely lady. So we have this kind of, the entire company, everyone has been chosen and selected very nicely.
It's a very, very good cast.
Yes, indeed.
And you really don't see too often an ensemble group of this caliber together on a stage for a limited engagement.
Right.
You really
That's
don't.
right.
It's very difficult to get actors together and to complete a job in one area.
Thank you, because that's where I was trying to go.
Yeah, yeah.
And that should encourage people to come and see. You know, I think today we've got to realize throughout our nation that we need to celebrate our artists. And we are all American artists. We belong to the people here. And that's what our lives are about. So we need to come together and do it together.
Why theater? All of you have a very, very secure, very strong background in film and television as well. And obviously the notoriety, the amount of time it takes to become quote-unquote successful in your occupations as artists and as actors. Film and television obviously offer a much more, I would think, appealing a place to work.
Certainly
Why do you come back to theater? What makes theater, live theater, special to you?
Well, I
as
guess
artists?
each one ought to answer that in their own terms, because I'm sure that will be a very, I want to hear. I do,
Well,
because
for
I
me-
think that's very important to each artist in his own way.
For me, I'm from the stage, and I'm from New York. I mean, originally from Philadelphia, but I was in theater in Philly before I went to New York, and you know, Broadway and off-Broadway and stock and all national companies, etc. And my background is the stage. When I first came out to Hollywood to do my first picture, and I had a contract. I was under contract to William Wyler and Allied Artists Studios, the first major picture that Allied Artists was behind. And he brought me out for this picture, and when the picture was over, I couldn't bear the thought of staying in Hollywood. I mean, I had an obligation to my craft to go back to New York to study, to be as a working actor, to try to really learn my craft, to know what it was all about. It was appalling to me to be in California, to be a film actor and do 5 weeks on my next picture, or 7 weeks. And I reveal this now, I had to feign psychological disturbance to get out of my contract. And I did, for 3 months, until I broke that contract. And I wouldn't say I'm sorry now, but you know, that was a move that I made that time, to go back to New York, to continue to study, to be an actor, to be more fully equipped, that when I went to Hollywood, which I did later, 6, 7 years later, to move out here to California, I felt that it was the right thing to do, When I first came out to Hollywood, I didn't. And all through the years, I've always tried to do a play or two a year to maintain my craft, because doing film and television, even though it's rewarding and it's fun and it's great, it's not the same as being in front of an audience. It's not the same as facing the battery of what it's all about, of being an actor. And it's a rejuvenation and a certification of your craft, of what you have to contribute as an actor. And it's fulfilling, so that when you go back to working in film and television, you are energized and you say, yeah, I know I'm an actor, and what I have to contribute, and my potential and my variances, etc., nuances.
I would think if you spend too much time just in front of cameras, it would be very easy to forget that one-on-one connection that you have with the people on the other side of the lens, which theater gives you.
You have the space from the camera lens if you're in a close-up, or of course they use long lenses now and cut it tight, but you know, the movements are this big, and the eyes and the thinking, etc., etc. When you get out in front of an audience of 1,000 people, or Lobero, which is close to 700 people, the guy in the back row wants to know what you're thinking. You can't be small anymore. You have to be convincing in a larger area. But it's a total actor. In film, it's a director. It's the producer who's got the people together, the director's medium, etc. So same thing in television. But when you get on the stage, it's you. You got to do it. And nobody can make excuses. You have to do it.
I knew this would be utterly fascinating. It is. You know, we all, I mean, hey, we all travel through this experience of life in a completely subjective way. That's why I loved what Claudette said about, if you ask the three of us about the play, each one will come from our own point of view. So it would be like three different stories of the piece. Much of what Peter Mark says I would agree with, of course. I love the theater. But my own feeling is that theater is simply a name, and that it's a generic term. And the facts are that technologically you have a difference between film, television, and the theater. Many, many actors are not able to play an interchangeable role. I think, fortunately, all three of us, and Barbara Rush, who is not with us today, this evening, have been very, very fortunate in that we have somehow, in our subjective points of view of life, been able to encompass all these areas. My own feeling is that the theater, generic sense, is a very compelling avenue of expression in life, and that it is only technologically different. There are things in television and in motion pictures that you cannot do in the theater that are very, very exciting. Peter Mark just was talking about thinking process. Yes, there are many times in the theater when you must project all the way to the back row. Sometimes you play 4,000-seat houses, which I've just been doing a great deal of in Annie. An extraordinary experience to try and project your senses and your feelings and this storytelling that you're doing all the way up to this very far piece in the back. Whereas, when you are dealing with a camera, such as we are today, actually, this object comes and takes what you have to offer, as against you coming and presenting it. So you have a different approach to it. I love the theater enormously for the immediate rewards, and certainly when you deal a great deal in comedy, which fortunately I get to do, the immediate response is heaven. And you were very perceptive to say that if you keep doing only television and film, it probably disturbs your sense of who you are and what you have to offer. I think you're right on it. I think you're on it, because the whole theater is an idea of communication in a very strange way. You put several sets of people in show and tell, don't you? It's really show and tell, in this little frame, and or centrally staged, and then you do the show and tell division, in which, from very strange spider-like webs, you have this marvelous connection with the audience. And we're all together doing this piece in a very strange way. Audiences don't do that when they're sitting in front of their homes, TVs. And they don't do it in the motion pictures either. In the theater, they do. They are a direct, immediate, total, and complete participant. And if they don't play the game, it affects those who are doing the show and tell. Anyway, so I love all aspects. I'm delighted to get a chance to do them all. As I say, many actors are not able or to, and hope to just continue doing that. I think that's the reason to do this, is to come and experience.
I always remember, I won't mention the actor's name, but I once saw a very famous film actor in a play years ago, and he had been doing films for 20 years. And he had some background, but he was in this play and he opened on Broadway, and in every delivery of the line, he was in close-up. Very intense, but his shoulders never moved, his arms never moved, his body never moved, and he was shooting from here up. And after about 15 minutes of the play, it was a disaster. You see, to be on a stage, you have to be in a totality. Otherwise, you're dead. Absolutely dead. That's the difference. You see, because it's a full, wide-angle vision. And on film, TV,
it's pre-selected. I think that's why they talk about it being a director's medium, because quite often in the theater, when you go, you look at the whole piece and you select yourself.
That's right.
You're your own director. You say, I want to watch him. He's got all the lines, but I want to watch what she feels about that. So your director has a different set of things to do in the theater.
And you're on camera all the time on stage.
Yes,
there's no off
exactly
camera.
right.
You can't break character.
No, which is wonderful.
And there's no cut either.
Right.
No, we must press on.
Oh, yes. Well, I've often wondered whether it's true for all actors that that area of theater, in the generic sense, as Kathleen used it, whether that area of theater in which they began is the one that remains for all of them the primary one. In other words, I too am from New York and was raised there and went to school there and studied there. But I wonder whether for California actors, Californians, let's say.
Well, that would be me, unlike the two of you.
So this is something that you can answer. If you, now I don't know whether you began your studies for the stage or whether you went right into film. I'm sure there are some Californians who don't go right into television or film.
I had my own theaters for a decade in Southern California, as well as working in television and film at the same time. So
well, then it doesn't have to do with
immersion for me.
The New York-California dichotomy. It has to do with how you began. And I know for me, I too began with the stage. I didn't even do any television for a number of years. I didn't know anything about it. I mean, you put a microphone in front of me and I would do all those bad things. But the first love is the stage and the theater, and that's the one for which I studied and trained. And that's the one to which I am constantly drawn back.
First love, right?
Yeah. Now, I don't know whether it works that way for everybody. Obviously, it does for Peter Mark.
And for me,
but I think there are many people for whom it doesn't work that way. It isn't a question of returning to a first love.
Thing because in television, I get locked into a barrel. I have been for a long time. I've been the corporate executive mafia bad guy. And I played hundreds.
Gee, you're pretty. I don't think that.
Well, I didn't start out being, I was a love interest in my first film. And, you know, a lot of people think, oh, God, he's tough. Oh, boy. And people do associate me with the mafia. You won't believe, you know.
Well, that's
I played a lot of those guys. Anyway, although I played all kinds of roles, I mean all kinds of roles on television, when I get on a stage to play different roles in a total character, that's what I enjoy and what I have to do, because I play an Englishman, I'll play a German, I'll play this play, I'll play that play, I'll do a comedy, I'll do a drama. You don't get the chance to do that.
More selection.
Of course, you don't get a chance to do that in television. They buy an image, and it's very hard to break it. And it becomes very convenient, you know, to perpetuate that same thing you always play, and it pays the bills, and you raise your children, and you go and you say, God, I'm frustrated. I wish I could do something else. Now, very few actors in film and television get to play a great variety of roles.
Right.
Most film and television actors, or say stars in films, are personalities.
Yes.
Very, very few ever play anything but the same character. I'm talking about stars now. Except, you know, Dustin Hoffman gets a chance because he really works very hard at playing different roles. But basically, the big stars play the same role every single time. The circumstances are different. The name of the character is different, but they are the same.
Yes, that's quite often true. Not always, but quite often. As against
Like, for
the
instance,
English,
Olivier,
where
I
it
was
is
gonna
not
say,
true.
Olivier would never
Or
take a
Guinness or Attenborough, who just as directed Gandhi and all, what have you, an extraordinary man. Ustinov and so on. Ustinov may, of the English, probably, at least in my view, pretty much plays more closely.
but he's not a big star. I'm talking about big stars.
Ah, the superstar
See, Olivier
syndrome.
never was a
I've
big
never been
film
there,
star.
I don't know.
Olivier was never a real big film star.
Wuthering Heights.
Oh, no. It didn't last very long. He's a character actor. He's
Well, the
different
best
in every
American film actors all were character actors. Humphrey Bogart, Bette Davis, Katharine Hepburn.
Bogart played himself most of the time. And look at all his
Cagney,
films.
Who did
Spencer
not?
Tracy.
Spencer Tracy? Oh, no. Cagney's range is absolutely incredible.
Not,
You
well,
may-
Not in
Tracy,
films.
Tracy was always, as he has
As
said,
in
who
Tracy?
should I be?
Well, yeah.
Who else
All
should
right,
I be?
well, sorry, I
and
didn't
Bogart
bring him
said the
up,
same
but-
thing.
Jimmy Stewart.
Barbara Stanwyck. Now, these people, I think, were all character actors. That's my own view of it, since I've always been one, and I like that division.
Well, I think that's the best division.
So do I.
I mean, I
So do
think
I.
that
But
that's
certainly
being
you
an actor.
cannot say that Bette Davis is not a character actress. Always has been. Right from the go. And wonderful, in my view.
Yeah.
I mean, she started right out of
I was
character.
talking of the males, of course.
Naturally.
All of you have had a
Wasn't
wide
that fun?
variety.
Did you
That
get
was
that?
fun.
It was fun. Thank you.
A real wide variety of roles. What, if you had a chance to do something, or what do you want to do? You all basically would be considered, at least in my mind and many people's mind, successful. You've made your mark. You've been successful in your craft. But what's something that you haven't done that you'd like to have a chance to do that you haven't had a chance to do yet?
I tell you how I used to be able to have a real smart-ass answer to that question. And it isn't absolutely untrue any longer, so I will tell it to you. When people would ask me that question, my answer would be, yes, I know exactly what I want to do. I want to do Cyrano de Bergerac. And the response would then be, oh, you want to play Roxanne? No, I want to play Cyrano. That's really what I want to do.
And that still holds?
Well, make me an offer. See what happens.
Well, but I mean, so many women have played Hamlet, etc., and so on, and there's, you know, more of that kind of activity and what have you.
They have, yes. Judith Anderson has done. No, I mean, I love to do Shakespeare, but there is so much I haven't done. There is an enormous vista of things I would still love to do. So I can't answer that question.
Okay.
Oh, that's wonderful. I agree. There's the idea for me is to, if there's anything I want as an epitaph, it is that she used herself up.
Oh, God.
You
bless
have a quote in the
Yeah.
bio in the program, if you're not growing, you're not living.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what the whole trip's about.
Yeah.
And I am just, I guess it's wearing, but I can't help it. I'm just as excited about tomorrow as I was about yesterday as I am about today. The possibilities are endless, and the earth is just teeming with available joy and excitement. I worship at the altar of comedy, and I will tell you why, because I think it is possibly, of all the activities of mankind, the most healing.
And healthy. Sure is.
I mean, it's established now at long last that laughter is a complete healing.
Right.
That's a brilliant thing to latch onto and spend your life doing. I'm not unhappy with that choice. That's an election that I've made, and I'm thrilled with it. Nonetheless, I would have to admit that the use of tears has a similar effect quite often, and I suppose one of the things that I would like to do is get to play a couple of dramas, important ones. All the dramatic actors will kill me now, but I think it's true. It's so much easier to do. And I would love not to work so hard a couple of times and
Comedy
do that.
is not easy. It's not
Comedy,
easy at all.
in my view, is without question because the most difficult of all the performing arts, and I say all the performing arts, I include any kind, Itzhak Perlman, etc. And I will tell you why I feel this way. Because you are, in effect, dealing with a piece of pure ephemera. You see, laughter, as far as we know, is inexplicable. Physicians know how it's done, but there is not a soul who can tell you why. Mm-hmm. And therefore, you're dealing with the core of each person's mystique, their own center. And when you deal with that, you're really out there in the land of magic, in my book. And so you're dealing with pure ephemera. You can't tell why something's funny half the time. I had a discussion once many years ago about numbers, which I thought was an extraordinary discussion. And Fred Allen was a man of great talent and ability, and luckily as a youngster I got to do something with him. And he was talking about the humor of numbers. And he said, 4 is a funny number when I say it. Almost nobody can say 4 but me. And that's brilliant. I mean, you could go on philosophically from that forever. I think he was quite right. 4 was hysterical coming out of nothing for me, but right? And you will get, and you'll do, and you'll say, 13. Suddenly it gets to be, well, in any case, that's a long song and dance to go about it. But yes, I would like to do whatever is available to do as well as possible to do it at that moment with as much joy as I can muster. That's mine.
Great. You have an upcoming movie, but why don't you tell us about the Jack Dempsey story?
Oh, yeah. I never got to answer what I'd like to do, but...
Well, you're going to start there, but and then you can tell us what's coming after that.
You start where?
What you hope with the Jack Dempsey story.
Oh, I'm going to do, there's a 3-hour movie on CBS called The Jack Dempsey Story, and I'm going into that in a couple of weeks. And I'm doing Tex Rickard, who was his promoter, that Jack Dempsey had a great debt of to him for helping his finances and guidance, etc. I'm looking forward to it.
Ooh, that should be fascinating.
Yeah.
But I want to hear what you want to do, too, besides things like that.
I have a dream, always had. I did a musical years ago, and I'd love to do another one. I mean, but really do one.
Oh,
and more than that, I would like to do, I've just written a drama, one-act musical drama. I've written a book on the lyrics, and my son, Lucas, who's a very talented composer, is writing the music. And it's going to premiere at UCLA in May. I would love to be playing a role, but I'm afraid I'm not a student. So the next production.
But we're out of time. It went by so fast.
You see what happens? You're
just whipped by. Enjoyed it very much.
Hey, it's really been joyful to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope you'll all get a chance to see Blythe Spirit at the Lobero. It's running through this Sunday night. Tickets are available at the Lobero Theater box office, and the number is on the screen. You can call for reservations. Don't miss it. It's a very special evening of theater. Thank you for being with us tonight.